Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sky U Pod following a Gopher loss to the University of North Carolina Tar Heels 17 to 19. Kurt, Max, we kind of watched the end of the game together, kind of discussed how it looked throughout the game. Um, any initial thoughts from you both? Curdy, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and be as rational as I can about that, but we're literally minutes after the missed field goal. So we'll see how well I do at that. But first things first, overall for the defense, a lot of missed tackles. North Carolina's got a lot of good skill guys. And it was pretty wet out there. You saw multiple guys slipping. Overall, I thought the defense played pretty solid for the most part. Couple big penalties, obviously, as we saw. All of them ended up being crucial, wiping out big plays. Defense, I thought, though, like for basically bringing back most of the same guys, a couple new guys in the secondary, I thought they played pretty well overall. And then the offense is a little bit more concerning, obviously. Hats off to North Carolina, played well, but offensive line pass protection was off. And the main thing for me is I just don't know why Ethan couldn't have ran this offense. Like we've shuffled in a whole new quarterback room. That last drive, Max Brosmer looked great, led us right down the field there. Ethan did that last year too. I'm not saying we would have won with Ethan. That's not the comparison I'm saying. I just don't know why that this offense required a new quarterback when it was very plain vanilla run, hitch, out, couple play action attempts. I get it. The O line didn't pass block very well, but Brosmer missed some guys too. So yeah, I mean it's the first game. Hopefully it gets better as it goes on. But initial reaction, that's what's in my mind. Max.
Yeah. Um, I guess just I know it's the first game. I get it. I get it. There's going to be mistakes. But when you have a team with as much experience as this Gopher team, I mean, they showed the graphic during the game that this North Carolina offensive line, one player had started a football game. The rest, that was their first start.
Yeah.
They have a brand new quarterback who's been kind of bounced around. They like got a lot of a lot of changes to be made on defense, who was terrible last year. And all offseason, all we talked about was, our offensive line is experienced. We've got a quarterback who's played a lot at a lower level, but he's played a lot of football, passed for a billion yards. We've got this super deep receiver room, the super deep running back room. We bring back all this depth on defense. And we just played like that was our first game ever. Like the mistakes were brutal. And I know it's the first game. There's going to be some missed tackles, but it got to the point where it was like there would be a tackle for loss of 3 yards that would just get missed by a true freshman. No, your starting middle linebacker who's supposed to be the best tackler on your team, and it happened over and over and over again. And it just was like, I don't know. That's the most frustrating part. Is it wasn't the youth or inexperience. It was just everyone played like they had never played football.
Yeah. I mean, maybe start right off the first quarter. Your first two offense possessions are 3-and-outs. Defense battled. They were seeing what was thrown at them. I thought they were okay. You're right. Way too many missed tackles, even for how skilled North Carolina's guys are. The the whole sequence of our first trip to the red zone, and you got 3rd and 9 with Daniel Jackson not on the field, and you ran the ball like not even like a deceptive run, like just like nope, motion the guy, hand it off from the 9-yard line. It's like, how many more opportunities did you think you were going to get? Now we got some, but you weren't moving the ball, and like you brought in Max Brosmer to be the guy. Like that's what I mean. Like, why is Ethan not running this offense when you're handing the ball off on 3rd-and-goal from the 9? Like that's a really good scoring opportunity for a lot of college football teams. and yet we can't get the offense to the point where it is. And Brosmer missed a lot of throws. He was under a lot of pressure. I'm sure he'll get better as the year goes on. I'm not selling my Brosmer stock or anything. I'm more just back on the Greg Harbaugh isn't a very good offensive coordinator. Just my opinion. Look at how many runs in those first 2 quarters were to the right side of the line. You know, you got a first round, second round, maybe late or early third round left tackle on the left side. And I felt like we always ran to the ball to the right the majority of the time, at least in the first half. But yeah, I'm rambling now. Shooty, any thoughts that we haven't rambled on about yet?
Yeah, I'll be brief so we can get some callers' insight here, but it is the first game, and I do see some improvements, I guess, hopefully in all 3 phases. But was really just glaring is kind of like you mentioned, Kurt, is almost a mirror image of the offense that was last year. Um,
Yeah.
Essentially, you're right. You could have done that what we did today with Ethan. And also just the lack of discipline with a veteran team, penalties, missed tackles. Yes, it was a slippery night. It's the first game of the season. We get that, but I thought it'd be a little more tuned up from them, especially from PJ Fleck, who, claims the ball is the program and everything. It was just a little disappointing to see. But again, first game of the season. We'll see what happens.
Alan chimes in from the Heel Bros. What a game, guys. I think both teams have more questions than answers. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, obviously we would have loved to come out with the W there. It was an ugly game, but yeah, I mean, obviously the Tar Heels didn't make as many mistakes as we did, and yeah, kind of just won it over there in the end. Yeah, good luck to you guys the rest of the season. Hopefully your young quarterback works out. That's a shame that Johnson went down. That was tough to see, but
Yeah,
Shitty, you're exactly right. The offense was like the exact same. I just don't get why there was no shots really taken down the field. And shout out to North Carolina, they had good DBs. The anchors were praising them as the game went on. That a lot was covered there. But it's like, they doubled Jackson and no one else is open. It's like, that's been our problem for like 2 seasons. We haven't been able to come up with anything. And you can't even blame the talent in the room at this point, because how many guys has PJ brought in at receiver as well? I mean, we've shuffled that room like at least twice in the last 3 seasons that he's. So I it's tough to keep pointing the finger at the receiver talent and not blame PJ for blaming it where it's at this point. It's just, here's Tyler Randall, PJ, shake my head. Yeah, I'm there with you, but then the game went on and it got a little bit of a groove. I mean, the Justin Wally pick was huge. It switched the whole game. I mean, we were in major trouble until that pick happened. Throw a little bit behind the receiver and he's able to take it away from him, and they made a play on the return. That was great to see. Punched it in and then kind of had some momentum going from there. But anything else? Any other positives we want to get out here that happened in this game?
Biggest
I like the attempt
for me.
Oh, go ahead, Max.
I was gonna say the biggest positive for me is we dialed up a lot of pressure. We utilized our, the talent we have at the defensive end position. We saw Wally came on a blitz. We saw some, Bryson Coleman coming on blitzes. We saw some defensive ends wrapping up the middle, twisting, stunting, like things we've been asking for, and we got to see it and actually force some pressure. Not even the times we got home, but just forcing bad throws. That was huge, and I hope we can build on that. So that's probably the biggest positive I saw.
Yeah. I would say 2 things. I kind of was impressed with that last 2-minute offense that we saw. Although we didn't finish the deal. At least we know that we're capable of throwing it downfield. And I think it just needs to be refined a little bit. I wasn't so sure about spiking the ball kind of down in the territory there or anything like that. I think.
I mean, it ended up okay because they got it set up where they wanted. But Kasich just gonna. I just hope it doesn't derail Kasich. Overall, he's been a good college kicker. Really rough start to this season for him. But
Bad night.
yeah.
And I appreciated the fact that there was a kick that was returned and a punt that was returned,
So
attempted.
yeah. All I wanted to add on to your 2-minute offense comment, that was great to see. It's always tough to know how much of a shell did they go into that wasn't there earlier on, So, you know what I mean? Like, I hope we
Yeah.
can consistently push it down the field in a 2-minute situation.
Right.
We'll see. But okay, let's get to special teams because we've covered the missed kicks. But now your first 2 putts, I think it was the first 2, at least 2 out of the first 3, you didn't get lined up right, so you had procedural penalties. I never know when, gosh, I'm blanking on his first name. When Redding, number 81 back there, is going to actually field the ball. It's always an adventure. The last one, before Brosmer fumbled, why didn't he catch that and take the ball at like the 10? I don't understand that. He's still not. I mean, I'm not saying we had blocks set up for him, but he's still not great returning. Like, he doesn't look like a dynamic athlete with the ball in his hands. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to rag on him.
Yeah.
No.
And there's nothing really there for him either. So, like, it's one game.
I
North
just
Carolina
fear
is
for
a
him because
Power
he's so
4 team
small too.
who has, yeah. I mean, he started as a walk-on. Tyler's got another good point.
He's doing
4
his
for
best.
12 on third down.
Yeah.
Gonna cut it. Yeah, you're right, and that was a big problem last year as well. So,
Well, we
yeah,
saw
I was just
we
gonna say
saw
you
a
can
couple
keep
times on.
commenting, and we
Go
also
ahead,
have the
sorry.
call-in number, and it's all right. We also got the call-in number. Scroll at the bottom. I think it's in the notes if it's saved right. 507-338-2795. We're going to try and do this every time after the game. Just, you always listen to the radio and want to get your voice heard. You got to vent it out. This is what this is. This is the Gopher therapy session tonight, although it is pretty late
It's
in the
late.
night right now. But we
It's late,
appreciate
folks.
you that are out there listening. So, yeah. Sorry, Max, cut you off. God, what were you going to say?
So just on the third downs, like on both sides, like we did run one sneak that worked to perfection. Like, our offensive line is gigantic, especially compared to their defensive line that was a little bit smaller. And then after that, it'd be like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. We come out and shotgun, spread out a little bit. We're like, well, I mean, it worked a couple times, but why not keep going back to that well? And then on the flip side too, like, Omarion Hampton ran the ball 30 times at least. I mean,
Yeah.
he's their whole offense basically by come the second half of the game there. And on defense, it'd be 3rd and short, and we'd have a light box. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Just those.
There were a
again.
few times where I felt like we ran ourselves out of a gaps. Like, we tried a run blitz, and it just kind of created a seam, and he saw it right away. And he's a terrific back. He's a terrific player. So I'm not trying to sell him short by any means. But, yeah, I think I'm just going to say it. It's the first game. They have a lot of time to get better. I do think there's a talent issue overall at the linebacker position for this team. Cody can run down anybody. A lot of missed tackles tonight. I'm hoping that's a first game thing, but just, yeah. And we were catching guys a lot of the time. Again, it's Hampton. He is a top back in the country, so I'm not trying to downplay that at all. Just a lot of missed tackles there, and I did pretty well. Yeah, there was a couple holdings in the secondary, and they came at really unfortunate times. Honestly, I would have loved to see the camera view of the Gooseby hold, which was a definite hold on the fumble recovery, just if it was actually before the fumble, because it felt like the hold happened later in the play than I was expecting for when they showed the replay, at least. But, it is what it is. What are you going to do? I mean, the calls were pretty even for the most part, I thought. So definitely not blaming the refs for anything in this one. When you just look at the plays, you know what Peter's going to talk about? Well, we were there. We made the plays. You got the 2 missed field goals, the drop touchdown by Elijah Spencer before you went up by 1, before they came back down, and then the 2 defensive penalties. You're probably looking at that hold also on that final drive that made you back up a little bit. You're probably decently closer if you don't hold there. Yeah, I mean, just a really rough go. But hey, teams can get better. I'm not gonna bail on it. I had this as a loss anyway, and it didn't go anything like I thought it was gonna go. But that is how we picked it. So let's talk about this passing game a little bit more in depth right now. What would you fault the most in this opening game as far as like Brosmer, receivers, O line? What would you point to and see like that's got to be the first thing that gets fixed?
Well, yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
all of the above is probably the right answer, but I'm going to force you guys to pick an option and be like,
I
this one needs
think
fixed right now.
well, the line definitely needs, better protection for sure. I think Brosmer also needs to feel a little more comfortable in the pocket. I felt like at times he felt too much of the pressure.
Yeah, there
Um,
was times he could have just slid up instead of
yeah,
bailing, but
right.
yeah,
But I think the biggest thing is, and it happened in that 2-minute drill, but we can't always target Daniel Jackson. We do have to have plays that maybe utilize other targets. Um,
right.
I would like to see, that spread out a little bit more. Hopefully throughout the season we do see that. Um, so yeah, I guess to answer your question, probably all the above in some sort of way.
I'm curious to see how many snaps Lemecki actually played out there because I felt
Yeah,
like he wasn't on the field as much as I thought he would be. We tried to get Driver involved, but it was all like right at the line. Didn't feel like we targeted him very much down the field, I don't think. Although we didn't throw it very far down the field. The tight end was targeted. Caleb
he
was targeted more than I thought he would be.
Driver was
And
wide open on that one. I think it was a third down play or second down play when um, Brosmer got sacked. He didn't see him. The defender totally tripped, and then
gotcha.
he was
Oh, was that on the
streaking.
crossing route? Or
Well, he
no, am
was
I thinking
going
of the
down the
goal line
middle of
play?
the field.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I missed that
just
too.
missed him.
Yeah.
But
Max, how about you?
Yeah, I guess number one is probably just it kind of seemed like Brosmer was maybe trying to do a little bit too much. And first game in FBS football, it's a lot of pressure, I'm sure. There was a couple times it just seemed like he maybe held on to it a little bit too long. He tried to scramble and just kind of run into the back of his own offensive line. He was under a lot of
Yeah.
pressure, so it's not all on him. But yeah, there was just a couple times where he just could have thrown it away, could have just dumped it off, and just didn't. But then I think too, we could make it a little bit easier on him if the offensive line can afford him a little more, a little more time and a little bit cleaner of a pocket. And then yeah, like you guys said, I mean, if we can get our skill players open and actually design some plays that
That's
you could
the
take a shot
thing.
deep, and if it's not there, I mean, I feel like there's so many offenses where if the big play is not there, the check down is a guaranteed 4 or 5 yards.
Right.
With our
Yeah.
offense, at most you're going to get 9, and there's no check down.
What it
I
felt
don't even
like to
think that's
me
possible.
is they were expecting a lot more play action pass game, and we gave up those sacks early on, and they kind of completely went away from it. And they just
Yeah,
went catch, running back's going to chip, and then we're looking for that out or the hitch or the in from the tight end. There wasn't a lot of dialed up down the field. And
yeah,
again, you were right there. It's the first game. I just, and it was raining too. Like when they would show the sidelines, it was raining. So maybe that was affecting because neither team threw it great. I don't think. I don't think any team was too thrilled with the offense in this one. So first game, it's tough to take the L on that one. I don't know. Like maybe it's just me, and I'm trying to be too optimistic here as we sit here on this very late show. It's 11:47 p.m. Thank you for those of you that are tuning in. Feel free to chime in the chat or call in. This game does nothing for me as far as like changing my season outlook, as far as how like it broke down. Like I feel like like Alan commented from the Heel Bro, like I feel like we have still about the same amount of questions as we thought we were going to have. Like how much got answered this game? I'm not sure much did. Obviously, Darius Taylor was supposed to be a huge part of the game, I would assume, because you didn't have a lot dialed up outside of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus Major looked good. No complaints about him. Newman did fine. I would say running backs played the best out of any positional group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That too, maybe go back to the pass game. Like, I mean, we ran the ball good enough, but that too, it seemed like it was even like talked about in the pregame, and PJ's talked about like we have to run to set up the pass. We ran to get some yards, but there was never like a chunk play. There was never that huge threat. We never even forced them to have to load the box where we could open up the pass. So that too, has got to get better.
Right. Like I would say the initial push on the line was definitely better for North Carolina. Like it seemed like they were having more success at getting like that 4 or 5 yard start, and then you're kind of stuck in the middle. We didn't consistently get to second in mid, It was a lot of second and long or second and 10 if we tried to throw, because yeah. And again, with how much we run and how much they're in the box and stepping up, I feel like there should be a screen game here. I know we talk about that a lot. Other teams wrinkle those in. I don't know why. Since Soraka left, we really don't have much of a screen game. I don't know if we ran one this whole time. We ran the check down, which I guess kind of works. If you beat your man, you're loose a little bit. But yeah, it was tough.
I feel like too we had some success with like I guess I don't know what to call the type of play where the tight end kind of motions and almost runs like an ISO or like almost like a power that opens up that kind of that inside gap. But then we just always go back to that fake read option where we just don't.
That mesh play's got to go in the trash.
Yeah,
it's terrible. They just sat there. The ends are both crashing in, so we're not picking them up, and then it's like a read, and by the time we're giving it, they're in the backfield. They're on top of us. It's like something's not being blocked correctly there. So I guess this game just reinforces how much of it's PJ. Probably a good chunk. The conservative nature is definitely PJ, but I don't know. Like when we ended up with 166 passing yards, which is kind of nuts to me. Look at this though. So they ran the ball. North Carolina ran the ball 41 times, 147 yards, 3.6 yards a carry. Majority of that low was Omarion Hampton, 30 carries, 129 yards, long of 16. So I thought we did okay. Like he's a good back. But look at our rushing though. 33 carries, 78 yards rushing, 2.4 yards per rush. Marcus Major, 20 carries, 73 yards of touchdown. Which, well, I'll get to this in a second. Christian Driver, 1 carry, 5 yards. Daniel Jackson, 1 carry, 3 yards. Jordan Newman, 2 carries for 3 yards. Max Brosmer, 9 carries, -6 yards. So you lost 6 yards from Brosmer running around. But, man. So a couple things here. One, we literally had the ball for 30 seconds in the third quarter. So you didn't have a lot of offense to put up there because you went 3 and out in your only possession, really. Second, North Carolina obviously adjusted to whatever you were trying to get going, or what you had going, I should say, with Marcus Major in the first half. Because didn't he have 73 yards in the first half, I'm pretty sure? And he finished with,
I think that was right. Close.
He finished with 73. I thought he had 70-some yards in the first half. Yeah. Tackling leaders. Cody Lindenberg is your tackle leader with 11. Mav Baranowski with 10. Kerry Brown had 8. All 3 of those guys were actually put in position to make one-on-one tackles with the Omarion Hampton, and it never really went super great. But he's a good back, so maybe it'll get better as you go. John Joyner with 6 tackles. Half a sack for him, half a sack for Strigo. Sack for Anthony Smith, which we saw. 2 sacks. They had 5 sacks. Is that right? We get sacked 5 times? Is it that much? That's what ESPN has it at
Yeah.
right now as we're live.
Yeah, I feel like we had a couple that just like our 3 and outs where
Yeah, that's
we
true.
just gave up too much pressure. But
Well, then there's your problem. I would say the biggest disappointment outside of the missed kicks and the missed kicks, missed opportunities. The offensive line got to be better. And it was a good opponent. Like they told us that it was 4 and 5 stars across the board on their defensive line. I'm not trying to make excuses for the team, but like, yeah, we were hyping up the offensive line. Thanks, Dad. It is my birthday. Yeah, they were hyping up. We were hyping up our offensive line. They were high on their edges, and I mean, they clearly won the battle. When you give up 5 sacks and average 2 yards a carry, 2.5 yards a carry, that's not a recipe for success in PJ's offense because he's not going to let us throw the ball. Plain and simple. And Greg Harbaugh, maybe hit me up. I'll help you come up with some new ideas, and we'll get in there and figure this thing out. I think is what needs to be done. But yeah, is there anything else? I mean, we've covered most of this, but
I guess if it's like any silver lining going forward is, yeah, that is very much true.
Honestly, though,
that's PJ Flex game management.
Yeah,
so
for audio listeners only, it was wasted too much time at the end of the game. Had time to get closer. We did, but I guess the bar is set pretty low from PJ's previous game, late game situation handling. That I was like happy with where we got it. I guess,
But isn't that just pathetic?
Yeah, it is.
We're
in year 8 of this guy,
right?
And that's what we're settling for.
Yeah.
Also, like, one more thing about the special teams, like, what are you doing during practice? Like, you can't have the starters all the time, but like, that's your job, and like, they're not lined up right. Like middle school football out there, you can't even get them up on the line to not get the illegal formation call. I don't understand.
yeah,
That is your sole purpose. And we gotta get Coy out there returning kicks. That's what I'm gonna start campaigning for, I suppose. And then or Hoskins, like we don't like those are the 2 guys they always talk about, like, yeah, really explosive, different when the ball's in their hand, and we just don't put him on the field. Like, I don't get it. Like, he's in his third year here. And we just don't find a way to utilize that. Like, at some point that's coaching. It's not always misses. And if it is always misses, then that's also on your coaches because they're supposed to get the guys in there that can get the job done, and it's not happening. Either way, passing game got to get fixed. Offensive line did not play well. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. Sorry, Shuddy, did I talk over anything else you're gonna add in?
No, that sums it up.
All right. Yeah. It's late, guys. So thank you for those of you that did tune in. It is late. We are going to try and do these every game immediately after, just a live show. Call in if you want, discuss. Comments are great too. Yeah, appreciate you guys being with us. 0-1 to start the year, 19-17 loss to the Tar Heels, but defense showed the signs, I think, to be improved over last year, but we'll see. A lot of football left, and thanks for tuning in. As always, go Gophs. We'll see you next time.